It's early afternoon on the next day here. I'll show you kind of what I got going on. I've got this thing soaking with some degreaser, and I've done a little scrubbing down here where it's real nasty. I'm going to go ahead and clean this thing up real good. As you can see, I've done stripped the harness off, all except for, the crank sensor, ignition coil pack pigtail here. I've kind of got everything stripped down. Now to get it cleaned up. Once I get it cleaned up, I'm going to put it in the garage and we're going to start throwing a motor in the car. We'll see how that goes. But right here's where we're at, and I'll pop back here in a few minutes and give you all an update. It was at this point I just kind of called everything good. Got it reasonably clean. There's still a little nasty stuff here and there around the motor here. Just in a few places. You try to rough clean this stuff, and you always want to make sure you do everything you can to try to keep water out of the motor, because that's going to ruin whatever you're doing, and it's going to ruin your day. So I've got this reasonably clean. I got a brace right there to weld between these two strut towers, and as you can see, everything's fairly clean. I'm going to be deleting all this stuff like this rack and pinion. I'm going to lock this out. I'm more than likely going to have to narrow the control arms and the axles. I'm going to remove some of this, stuff like that you don't necessarily need in a custom application. But get a real good start going on. The power steering's going to go away. AC compressor will go away. And once I get all this stuff stripped off and get it all mocked up in the car like it is, I can strip this stuff off, and once I get my structure added to the car, I can drop this subframe back out, pull the motor off of it, give everything a good deep clean, and reseal the motor and transmission and stuff like that. But a real good start. Not bad for a Saturday morning. And another thing I forgot to mention, you always want to kind of dry this stuff off, not let water set, and fuel injectors and your electrical connectors that you got loose. So you generally just want to take something like an air blower like this. It's just connected to my little air compressor in there, or a leaf blower. And just kind of dry this stuff out, Anywhere where water's ponded. Stuff like that. I'm not really going to put this whole video of me blowing this stuff off, but I'll make a fast forward video just showing me kind of blowing everything out. But you just want to make sure all your electrical connections are dry so they don't corrode. That'll come back to haunt you later. And at this point, we got everything kind of just reasonably dry. As you can see down here in the injector plugs, they're good and dry. Got our throttle body connector dry, and our crank sensor pins and coil pack leads dried out. The motor's reasonably clean. It's not beautiful. It's still got a little funk here and there. But like I said, I'm going to be pulling this out after the initial fabrication's done. Getting it mounted to the car. We're going to do some mods to this. Maybe add something here instead of a converter. Maybe something that blows some air into here. We may do that and put a supercharger on it. But I'm just going to kind of show y'all around what I'm dealing with here. it's a lot cleaner than what it was. So now we got to work on getting this all the way from here into there. We got to square this up a little bit here and put this brace in here. Probably should have done that before I removed it from the car. But since I'm going to narrow everything, I just need it solid enough I can get it inside. So stay tuned. I'll keep continuing this video and we'll go from there. And we're back. I just kind of got the brace just stuck between there. I'm going to just take this level here and probably not going to be a whole lot of use in this situation. But at least let us know if we're pretty close to where we need to be. Let's pull some measurements off right here in front of where I cut. We're pretty close. And we get a little, only thing right here, we're just going to gain a little extra camber if they're a little further in than they were before. That'll all have to be squared and leveled up once we get it in the car. So let's just continue on. I'm going to fast forward from here and may put this brace in here. We'll go from there. As I was just getting ready to drag the welder over here and weld this brace in, I got to thinking about the old strut tower brace that run to the course board up here. Well, it turns out that both of them put together pretty much gets your measurement right here. I just took a, just a little step bit here and walled out this hole a little bit so it bolt on this strut bolt. So, cheap, easy brace. Didn't cost anything. Literally took 5 minutes. So, I'm ready to try to get this thing in the garage. And once I get to that point, I'll pop back in. Alright, I'm just going to pop back in here. Just kind of show you what I'm dealing with. Now, this is where you take your preliminary measurements. I've got the car fairly squared up with the subframe at the front up there, which is bolted hard to the engine subframe. So, just going to kind of step back here and show y'all. Obviously, the structure's wider than the car. And the wheels, they're wider than the car. Remember back earlier I talked about narrowing stuff, and that's what I'm going to do, but for now I need to kind of get this subframe mocked up in here. I'm going to take some more hard measurements now that I got everything kind of, kind of close to each other, so it gives you kind of a idea of what's going on. If this stuff was easy, everybody would be doing it, but I got some more stuff to cut and go for days at least get this kind of, at least the subframe portion, the lower half, stuck in here. So I'll take you along for a ride, and I'll probably fast forward through, a bunch of this removing and cutting stuff, and we'll pop back in at some key moments where I need to explain something. But you should have a pretty good idea what you're doing once you get to this point, so continue on. And with a little magic, looks like my measurements here were about right, exactly what I anticipated. And here's kind of the first look of everything that's kind of stuck in here for now. Obviously I'm going to have to cut some more metal out. I fully anticipated that. but I can cut that out with, you know, this attached. So right now I'm working on getting these wheels off, which kind of messed up my measurements here. And I thought that you know, they just kind of sit in the wheel well, but they don't. So get the valve core out, and the tire's good and flat, and the car's back sitting on the dollies again. So I can go ahead and just remove these, and we'll pick back up. But check it out. And right now I've got both the wheels off. So what we're going to do, we're going to begin by, you know, I'll probably end up cutting this out right here. This lines up almost perfectly in line with the factory subframe where it comes out. But I'm going to more likely put a welded through the floor. It connects to the front subframe up here. And that's what we'll bolt, you know, our subframe to. But right now I'm going to take some measurements from side to side and from front to back. And I'm going to find our wheel center line off the lower ball joint center here. And I'm going to get all this stuff marked up and make sure that the motor's getting square in the car. Obviously I'm going to have to build something back here, but it's not a big deal. But getting a little closer. And the exhaust almost comes out in a pretty cool spot. We may run with that for now. But just kind of give you all an idea. Obviously all this stuff's going to have to be removed. I didn't want to take none of that structure out, but not initially. But we're getting pretty close. Be right back. Alright, as you can see, I done cut this out right here, and you see the bottom of our back subframe right there. Pretty much, this bolt hole's going to pretty much hit dead on right there. So, like I said before, I won't tie that in, but I cut this little box out so the subframe would drop down a little bit, because we're pretty much at full suspension hang, and you know, we got some struts up almost to the quarter windows, so we'll have to address that. But I'm going to cut this other side out. We're going to go from there, and then we'll get this thing squared up. Alright, I stopped for a second just to kind of bring y'all in here. You can see right here, that's your factory subframe. And that's the hole I cut that out of. You can see where the bolt hole's at, right? Well, this subframe right here is actually over this way, you know, this way, about 3/4 of an inch too far. So, do you think that's going to fall in line? I think it will. Let's see. I've spent probably about an hour measuring. I kind of got my wheel center lines marked right here in line with axle. Got our distance from here to here on both sides equal. I measured from the center of our hole here using a drip punch right here that fits tight in the center. I measured center to center from there to the body on both sides, and we're square. Now, keep in mind, I'm working on car dollies. If you touch this thing, it's going to move and you're going to have a mess. But right now, I kind of got my bolt holes on both sides over there marked, and I'm going to drill a couple holes and just kind of bolt this thing to the floor pan kind of temporarily. Once that's done, I can go back here and kind of make some rear mounts. Just kind of temporary stuff for now, until I can get some stuff to reinforce it. Obviously, we're not going to drive it like this, so it'll work for now. I'll be right back. It was kind of at this point where I was rushing along, and I just went ahead and took these rubber bushings out of the front of the subframe up here, because these washers, it's got a lip on the subframe, and these washers will actually lock over the top of it and help center it. Now, I got the subframe bolted in the front. Everything kind of looks okay up here. Done a center line measurement off the other car out here, because I forgot to mark these before I took the wheels off of it. So basically, the center of the axle, I know it really don't look like it in this video, but the center of the axle is in the center of that line, and the center of the strut is in the center of this line right now. And the axle's pretty straight, so we're pretty close. This you can move this and it'll move the wheelbase back or move it forward. Obviously, we're going to lay this back a little bit. So, but one thing that I really didn't like at this point, it wasn't exhaust, but kind of step back from the car here, kind of get a downward view here. You see how low the back of the subframe is? That's going to be below the bumper, because the bumper's not very thick. So I'm probably just going to cut the front off of these, weld to the floor up there and bolt in, and square everything back up and see what we got. But we're running out of daylight pretty quick, so you know, we already got the sun there. It's starting to set, and I'm not in this about 4 hours at this point, you know, including moving it and getting it under here. So I may just take a few more minutes and just go ahead and cut those off right there and raise this up, 3 or 4 inches and see what we got. We got plenty of room to go up here, so let's see if we can do that real quick. And it was kind of this point where I really just want to take a little more time where I could trim this stuff off, but you know, kind of out of necessity. So I've welded on the front side here and then the structure right here. Eventually I'll box all this in where it ties in, but it's welded on the front side and the back side, front side and the back side. And I'll box all this stuff in, and when I put my subframe connector in here, it'll tie into this. So it should be good and strong. Now I just got to repeat it over there. So we're making a little progress. Still running out of daylight though, so we'll see what happens. And another thing, anytime you're doing welding, you want to take all your old paint off, you know, on what you're welding to in the car. But basically, I got all the paint ground off where I need it ground off, and it's pretty much fitted in there like the other side, except this one's going to actually attach to the rocker. I don't have to plate that side. Like I said, kind of get in a hurry because, you know, it's starting to get dark. It's probably about an hour off, and we still got to build something back here. Looks like we got to do some trimming too, so we'll just see what happens. And at this point, I've got this side welding in. These ain't my best welds, but it's dirty and the floor is full of junk. So it's good and solid. It ain't going nowhere. I banged on it with my hammer. So let's get this subframe up over top of this and see if I figured this height out correctly. This is about where I decided it needed to be. May not be, but let's see how close my eyeball is. And we're back. We're 2.5 inches here, up against the lip, which is square with that. We're 2.5 inches over there, up against the lip, which is square with that. So the front half of the subframe is mounted. Will sound like a broken record. I am going to tie and box all that in, because this was not a place where it's meant to have torque. But it's progress. And I'm going to wrap this video up. It's just going to be too long just to kind of wrap it up into one as far as roughing the mounts in. So what I've done here, I just took a piece of angle iron and jacked the body up a little higher than the subframe, and it's just kind of wedged there. It'll work for me to get the car, the rear half of it, on dollies. You know, that way I can get everything else back inside. It's already dark, so kind of running out of time. So we're just going to pick back up tomorrow, and we'll reinforce this rear panel, and we'll build some little legs off here, tie all that stuff in, and go from there. So see you later, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you subscribe, you know, you get to see this stuff, you know, as I update it. So please do it. Thanks.